So those of you who follow me on Instagram may well have seen that I've been working on a new Lightroom preset pack recently. It's now finished and it's ready, so you can download it via the link below. I'm really excited about this one. I think it's by far the best one I've done so far. It's my third preset pack. I've done 2 before. This one's based on Kodak film stock. So before I jump into Lightroom to show you it, first I need to let you know that it's only works on Creative Cloud versions of Lightroom because it uses features that older versions of Lightroom don't have, unfortunately. So that's Lightroom CC, Lightroom Classic, and it also works in Photoshop with the Camera Raw feature. Basically, when you download this, you'll get presets, but you'll also get camera profiles that work in tandem with the presets. And what profiles allow Lightroom to do is to change things in the image that Lightroom can't actually do with its native settings. So you can achieve effects that you can't actually create just in Lightroom on its own. But anyway, I'm very excited about this, so let me show you in Lightroom. So firstly, a quick note on how to install these presets. In Lightroom Classic, go to your Develop module, and in the Presets drop-down menu here, click this little plus and go to Import Presets. Select all of them. These are a mixture of presets and color profiles. Lightroom will know what to do, and click Import. And then here they are. To install the presets in Lightroom CC, click this little icon here, then click Presets down the bottom here, click this little ellipsis here, and go to Import Presets. Select them all, then click Import, and you're done. So jumping back into Lightroom Classic, let's start at the top. Firstly, I've got these 3 little tools that work with the presets. Each preset has its own film grain simulation built into it, but I made these little shortcuts to change that to an average 35mm or 120 medium format grain, in case the grain is too much or maybe not enough. You can obviously go into your Lightroom settings and change it, but these are just little shortcuts to speed up your workflow. Underneath that I have a reset tool. This basically resets the changes made by my presets but leaves other things alone, like the crop, white balance, exposure, lens and distortion correction, targeted adjustments, things like that. So onto the first stock, which is Kodak Era Chrome. This is an infrared film, and straight off the bat I have to say that obviously you cannot replicate the look of infrared film with a preset. You can't create light information that hasn't been recorded in an image. However, with the aid of carefully tweaked profiles, you can approximate some of the major parts of what makes this look so distinctive. The first 4 are designed to work with other elements like people in the shot, as they work with a profile that isolates a certain range of the green hues and shifts them to a range of magentas. The 5th is designed to work with shots entirely composed of greenery, as the profile for this one works in a different way. It basically inverts the colours but not their tonal values and swaps the values of the red and blue channels over. So this results in a kind of purer form of the look, but if you try to use it with people in, it will turn them green. So we have Aerochrome 1, Aerochrome 2, Aerochrome 3, Aerochrome 4 and Aerochrome 5, all with slightly different results. These won't work on every single image with foliage in, but once you start using them, you'll start to understand the sort of images you can use them on. Then you'll start to see potential images for them when you're out shooting. They're a lot of fun to play with. Sometimes they need a little bit of tweaking. Let me show you how you can do that. For example, if we apply the Aerochrome 1 preset to this rather boring image of a field, it immediately looks more interesting, but the pink is a bit too oversaturated. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to slide the profile amount slider just down to around about 55 to make it more of an orangey hue. And in order to knock out some of that saturation, I'm going to pull the dehaze down ever so slightly, and I'm going to add about 40 to the clarity. I'm not normally a fan of the clarity slider, but here it's a very useful feature. And now that image is really starting to look like it was shot on infrared film. Moving on to the next ones, we have ColorPlus 200. This is a fairly common consumer stock. It's got slightly warm tones. Next we have Ektachrome E100. This is a slide film. It's got a fair bit of punch to it, and the colours are pretty true to life. Ektar 100 Pushed. Now, pushing a film is when you rate a film's ASA in your camera higher than the box speed when you expose it. The result gives a bit more contrast and saturation. And Ektar is already quite a saturated film, especially in the reds, so you have to watch out when using it on skin tones. But it can look quite nice when used for the right shot. Next is Gold 200. This is another consumer film. And now we get into the Portra presets. Now Portra is a lovely stock, especially for people. Portra 160 has some cooler blue-purple hues to it, while the 400 ASA version has a much warmer orangey brown tone to it, which makes it really ideal for portraits. Now these are mainly pulled versions, and pulling a film is the opposite of pushing. Pulling a film is when you expose the film at a lower ASA than the box speed. Colour negative films, especially Portra and Ektar, generally have quite a high level of latitude when it comes to overexposing. You can overexpose Portra up to about 5 or 6 stops and still retain quite a lot of highlight detail. But basically the result of this is a compression of the highlights, leading to a very low contrast and lovely soft muted tones. It's a really nice look, and I've been trying for ages to replicate it in a preset, and I think I've finally nailed it with these ones. I'm really happy with how they're looking. I've noticed a little bit of difference in how the colours come out when you do this, depending on the light you're shooting in and how you process the film and expose the image. So I've created 3 different versions of the Portra 400 pulled. I've called them natural, subtle and warm, for want of better terms. They all look slightly different and they suit different images. This look is a very good one for shots taken in harsh sunlight due to the soft contrast. For example, this image here won't work well with something like Ektar, because even if we pull up the exposure, we start to lose highlight detail and it starts to look a bit horrible. But if we apply something like Portra 400 pulled subtle, then we can really even out those bright tones. I've also made a pushed version of Portra 400 at the bottom here. Then we have our black and white stocks. We've got T-Max 100 and T-Max 3200. And then we have Kodak Tri-X. I am especially happy with this one, in particular Tri-X 2. It just seems to work so well on so many shots, and it handles skin tones so well. I think I've really nailed the Tri-X look here too. Tri-X 2 just has a little bit of extra contrast than version 1. And I've also made a version 3 that's got a much heavier grain and a bit of tone to it. There have been quite a few versions of Tri-X released over time, and I've seen it both be quite clean and also have quite a heavy grain. So you can pick or apply the 35mm or 120 grain presets from this pack. So if you want these presets, click the link below this video and you can go and download them. I've also had a request to make a bundle deal of presets 1, 2 and 3 for anyone who doesn't have the first 2 and wants to get all of them, so I have done that as well. Again, the link is below this video. So a quick note to all those people who keep leaving that same comment over and over: if you want your photos to look like film, just shoot film. To which my answer is, I do shoot film. I shot film for ages. You know, I've got some Portra 400 here, my EOS 5, which I'm currently loading up with it. I do shoot film. I used to shoot film, but I shoot digital mainly nowadays because it's much more versatile. And to be honest, it's just a bit of fun. And if you invested in a digital kit, it's just nice to kind of see what your photos might look like on Tri-X or Portra or Ektar. You know, if you don't want to use presets, don't use them. But, you know, to each their own, just let people be. Okay, see you later. Bye.